A couple of days ago, our channel's writer had a funny conversation with a friend. The topic turned to the wonders of the world. And to our surprise, we realized that not everyone can even name all 7. Go ahead. Try it yourself. Pause the video and see how many you can list. Our guess is that most people will stop at 3 or 4. So we decided to make this short video. It will help you not only know the names, but also get a quick sense of each wonder's history. Keep in mind most of them are destroyed, and some are even doubted to have ever existed at all. So get comfortable. In the next few minutes, we will walk you through the history of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Let's start with how the very concept of wonders came about. Obviously, since ancient times, our distant ancestors would build something huge and immediately call it a wonder. But it was the ancient Greeks who really formalized the practice of making lists. And it wasn't just about buildings. In ancient Greek philosophy and rhetoric, there was a whole genre of list making. They ranked the best orators, kings, and generals. The wonders of the world were an offshoot of that genre. One of the first to classify wonders was Herodotus, in the 6th century BC. He named 3 wonders, but none of them made it into the classic list. The Greeks settled on the number 7, around the 3rd century BC. And not by accident. 7 was the sacred number of the god Apollo. It was considered perfect, and symbolized the finality of any list. One of the earliest written versions comes from a poem by a certain Antipater, either of Thessalonica or Sidon. He first mentioned the 7 wonders, and his list was close to the classic one. Over the centuries, historians tried to change the list. They added the Colosseum, or the Great Wall of China. In 2007, there was even a contest for the new 7 wonders. But as you probably know, the original Hellenistic 7 have never been surpassed in popularity. So that is the list we will cover. Let's start with the Lighthouse of Alexandria. Contrary to popular belief, it was not built by Alexander the Great. The lighthouse is a product of the Hellenistic era. It was completed during the reign of Ptolemy II in Alexandria, around 279 BC. It is the only wonder that had a practical purpose. It served as a lighthouse, continuing Alexander's goal of making Alexandria a trade hub. The lighthouse was a masterpiece. For a long time, it was the tallest man-made structure on Earth. It was 120 to 150 meters tall, about 390 to 490 feet. It helped sailors immensely, thanks to a huge bonfire on top. The light from this fire was visible from 50 kilometers away, that is 31 miles. Around the clock, mules carried firewood up to keep the flame burning. Its importance cannot be overstated. For one thing, it helped calculate the Earth's radius. At least modern scientists think so. It also served as a fortress. For example, Julius Caesar wrote that he was able to defeat Ptolemy XIII's army only after capturing the lighthouse and the island of Pharos. The lighthouse stood for over 1,000 years. That makes it one of the top 3 most durable wonders. It might have survived to today, but when the Arab world took over, Alexandria and Pharos fell into decline. Maintenance stopped. After an earthquake in the year 956, a Greek statue fell and was replaced by an Islamic dome. Another earthquake in 1303 severely damaged it. Finally, in 1480, the Sultan of Egypt, Qaitbay, used the last remaining stones to build a fortress. Today, the underwater ruins of ancient Alexandria, including Pharos, are planned to become an underwater museum. Many fragments have been found, so there is no doubt the lighthouse existed. The same goes for the Colossus of Rhodes, one of the most debated wonders on the list. It is also partly a legacy of Alexander the Great. One of his successors, Demetrius, tried to storm Rhodes. He laid siege for a whole year. It didn't work. Around 290 BC, the happy citizens decided to celebrate their victory by building a giant statue. Rhodes had a famous school of sculpture. You probably know the story. The huge statue was over 30 meters tall, more than 100 feet. It took 12 years to build. But it was mostly clay. The framework was iron, and it was covered with bronze sheets for stability. It shone beautifully. It was destroyed only by a series of earthquakes in the 15th century. This time, the Knights Hospitaller took the remains. They used them to build the castle of St. Peter. Later, the Ottomans took the castle and renamed it Bodrum Castle. It still stands in the city of the same name. And inside, you can still find fragments of the polished marble mausoleum. Now, our next guest, the Temple of Artemis at Ephesus. It is legendary because it survived several reincarnations. The first version dates to the Bronze Age. It was a place of worship. The Greeks thought it was built by Amazons. A flood destroyed it. Then, in 550 BC, epic construction began on the famous temple. It took 200 years, finishing around 380 BC. Remember the poet we mentioned earlier? He said that compared to the Temple of Artemis, even the pyramids looked pathetic. The roof was supported by 127 columns. Legend says each column was a gift from a different ruler, from around the world. The temple was about the length of a soccer field, a bit less in width, and about 20 meters tall, roughly 66 feet. It is almost the only wonder, built with special earthquake protection in mind. Ironically, it was not earthquakes that destroyed it. First, a man named Herostratus burned it down, just to become famous. You probably know that story. But there is also a legend that Alexander the Great was born on the same day. The Greeks joke that Artemis was too busy with his birth to watch over her temple. Anyway, the adult Alexander began restoring the temple. He made it even bigger and more epic. The third temple was practically a mini-city. It had its own administration, warehouse, and finances. But Christians were not impressed. When the area fell under the late Roman Empire, in the early 1st century AD, the temple was completely closed. Mentions of it were erased as blasphemous. Then, as usual, materials were scattered. It is believed that the Hagia Sophia in Constantinople was partly built from its columns. Statues and other riches were shipped to Constantinople. Today, on the site of the Temple of Artemis in Ephesus, you can see just a single lonely column. But the next wonder had even less luck. I am talking about the statue of Zeus at Olympia. It was apparently restored. By the beginning of the 1st century AD, the statue was still intact, even though the temple had been largely looted by Christians and thieves. There are two versions of its final demise. One says Zeus was taken to Constantinople and burned in the palace of Lausus in the year 475. The simpler version claims the statue burned with the temple in a fire in the year 426. But that is hard to believe, because by then, little was left of the temple. Moving on, we hit the two most popular wonders, the ones everyone knows. First, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Their very existence is a huge question mark. Unlike other wonders, excavations have found no decent evidence. Most accounts come from Greeks and Romans, who loved to embellish, and they lived after the gardens were already destroyed. Even the construction is murky. Most sources say they were built by the legendary Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar for his wife in the 6th century BC. But there is another version, that they were built by the Assyrian queen Semiramis. Her name became synonymous with the gardens. It is all very complicated. Poets describe the gardens as a multi-level cascade of vines, trees, and shrubs. It turned an ordinary palace into a green mountain. Supposedly, they were destroyed in the 1st century BC by the warlike Persians. But again, no proof of their existence. So better to just go to Egypt to see the only wonder that survives to this day. Of course, we mean the legendary pyramids of Giza, the largest of which is the Pyramid of Khufu, also known as Cheops. It still amazes. It was built sometime between the 20th and 23rd centuries BC. And though the marble casing has been looted over the centuries, the original design is still visible. We will not go into great detail about the pyramids. Our channel has a separate video on them, and everyone more or less knows their story. But now, you also know the history of the other wonders. Even after millennia of revisions and new lists, nobody has managed to overshadow them. See you next time, friends.